Number 1. The Ducati Superleggera V4. First off, this beauty is packing a 998cc V4 engine capable of churning out 224 horsepower. And if you opt for the race kit, because why wouldn't you, you're looking at a staggering 234 horsepower. To put that into perspective, that's enough power to launch a small car into orbit. But what really sets the Superleggera apart is its power-to-weight ratio. At 0.59 horsepower per pound, it's the highest of any production motorcycle. It's so extreme that the term pushing the envelope doesn't even apply here. Ducati tore the envelope to shreds and set it on fire. Now let's talk about weight, or rather the lack of it. With carbon fiber everything, from the frame to the swing arm, the Superleggera tips the scales at a mere 336 pounds dry. That's lighter than some people's gym goals. Add in a race kit and you're down to 370 pounds wet. And for comparison, that's about the same weight as a Ducati's Daytona, but with double the horsepower. It's insane, right? But of course, this level of exclusivity and performance, it comes at a price, about $100,000 to be exact. Yeah, that's the kind of money that could buy you a house in the Midwest, or apparently a motorcycle that looks like it fell out of a sci-fi movie. Limited to just 500 units worldwide, this ain't just a bike, it's a collector's dream and a track enthusiast's fantasy. And those aerodynamics, the biplane winglets generate 50 kilograms of downforce at 170 miles an hour. Translation, this bike will stay planted when you're pushing triple-digit speeds. The question isn't whether the Superleggera can handle it, it's whether you can. Number 2, the Aprilia RSV4. The RSV4's 1099cc V4 engine churns out a jaw-dropping 217 horsepower and 92 feet per pound of torque, all while weighing in at just 445 pounds. That gives it a power-to-weight ratio of 0.49 horsepower per pound. Translation, it moves like it's got a grudge against the air around it. And if you're wondering how it feels in the corners, imagine being on rails that are greased with confidence. This bike just doesn't hug the road. It clings to it like a desperate ex. At just under $19,000, the base model RSV4 is what I'd like to call an exotic on a budget bike. Sure, it's premium and packed with tech, but it's also the kind of bike that you'll need a trusty Japanese backup for. You know, just in case it needs a spa day at the shop. But when it's running, oh man, it's poetry in motion. Whether you're blasting through twisty mountain roads or pinning it on the straights, the RSV4 makes you feel like the main character in your own high-octane movie. Number 3, the Honda CBR 1000RR Fireblade, or as I like to call it, the R-rated rocket. Under the hood, or rather under the fairings, you've got a 999cc inline-4 engine cranking out an eye-watering 215 horsepower with 83 pounds per foot of torque. For perspective, that's almost double the power-to-weight ratio of a Tesla Model S Plaid. Yeah, the same Tesla everyone can't stop talking about. The Fireblade laughs in its face and says, hey, catch me if you can, but you probably can't. Weighing in at 443 pounds wet, the Fireblade is an aerodynamic dart with MotoGP-inspired winglets to keep you planted when you're pushing those ridiculous speeds. It's got all the high-tech goodies too. Honda selectable torque control with enough settings to make your head spin, and a quick shifter that's smoother than butter on a summer day. But let's not sugarcoat it. This bike isn't for everyone. It's a track weapon masquerading as a street bike. And the riding position? Aggressive, like a sprinter on a starting block. If you're used to upright comfort, the bike's going to feel like yoga class gone wrong. But hey, if you're looking for pure adrenaline, the Fireblade delivers in spades. At $28,500, look, it's not cheap, but then again, neither is being the fastest. Number 4, the Ducati Panigale V4. Now at 436 pounds in running condition, this machine boasts a power-to-weight ratio of 0.48 horsepower per pound. Let that sink in. That's about as balanced as a tightrope walker on a caffeine high, but just as thrilling. Compared to other speed demons like the Yamaha R1 or the BMW S1000RR, the Panigale V4 doesn't just compete, it struts in wearing a tailored suit and dares them to keep up. The Panigale V4 packs a 1,103cc V4 engine, delivering 210 horsepower and 90.6 feet per pound of torque. But it's not just about all raw power. Ducati added aerodynamics to actually work. Those winglets, it's not just for show. They keep you grounded at insane speeds. And let's talk sound. The Demoiselle Stradale engine roars like a MotoGP bike on steroids. It's the kind of noise that'll make your neighbors love you, or call the cops. But the Panigale V4 packs a 1,103cc V4 engine that delivers at 210 horsepower and a very, very impressive bike. Number 5, the BMW S1000RR. The S1000RR packs 205 horsepower, all from a 999cc inline-4 engine. It's like strapping a rocket to your seat, and it doesn't just bark, it bites. Weighing in at a mere 434 pounds, it gives a power-to-weight ratio of 0.47, which means that this thing doesn't just move, it flies. But before you run out and slap $16,995 on the table for the base model, let's address the elephant in the room, the S1000RR Rider stereotype. Yeah, we see you, that finance bro who got the bike because your dad hooked you up with that cushy job at the firm. You're revving it at every red light like it's an audition for a Fast and Furious reboot. Newsflash, look, the bike's not going to fill the void left by your high school classmates ignoring you at reunions. But all jokes aside, S1000RR is a performance masterpiece. Number 6, the Yamaha YZF-R1. This thing has been turning heads and burning rubber since 1998. The R1 packs a 998cc inline-4 engine with Yamaha's famous cross-plane crankshaft. What does that mean to you? Well, it's the reason that the bike growls like a lion instead of buzzing like a bee. The unique firing order gives it a sound so distinctive, it's practically Yamaha's signature. And with 200 horsepower and 79 feet per pound of torque pushing a mere 448 pounds, that thing's power-to-weight ratio is nothing short of thrilling. Think of it like a rocket on wheels, but one you can actually control. And speaking of control, the cross-plane crankshaft isn't just about sound. It's a game-changer for rideability. The uneven firing order means better traction, especially when you're leaning into corners. It's like the bike's whispering, "Go ahead, I got you." No wonder Valentino Rossi, that MotoGP legend himself, called it one of his favorites. Since the debut, the R1 has evolved from dominating twisty mountain roads to crushing it on a racetrack. Yamaha took everything they learned from their MotoGP bikes and poured it into this machine. It's no surprise that it snagged victories in the World Superbike Championship and beyond. Number 7, the Kawasaki Ninja H2. Now, Kawasaki knew they needed to make something unforgettable, something that screamed, "Hey, we're not just the green brand you'd settle for." And boy, did they deliver. The H2 packs a 998cc inline-4 engine. But wait for it, it's supercharged. From the factory, you're looking at a wild 228 horsepower and 105 feet per pound of torque. It's like strapping a rocket to a greased-up cheetah. Oh, and it weighs in at 529 pounds, giving it a power-to-weight ratio that make even a Hayabusa blush. Now, what's wild here is that Kawasaki didn't just throw more displacement at the problem like their rivals. No, they went full mad scientist and slapped on a supercharger. It's the embodiment of the work smarter, not harder philosophy. Why add another 400cc when you can bolt on a forced induction system that makes the engine sound like a fighter jet? Number 8, the Lightning LS218. The LS218 gets its name from its jaw-dropping top speed, 218 miles an hour. That's right, this thing's so fast it could probably outrun your bad decisions. Powered by a direct drive motor that churns out 200 horsepower, this bike has a power-to-weight ratio of 0.4 horsepower per pound. We're talking serious performance here, folks. For reference, that's more torque than my truck. And my truck, it don't play around. Now, let's talk about hardware. Now, it comes with fully adjustable suspensions and Brembo brakes to keep you steady and safe when you're blasting down the highway like a bat out of you-know-where. And if you got some spare change, or maybe a small inheritance, you can upgrade the battery packs for a little more range. But let's be honest, with a 100-mile range at highway speeds, you're not taking this beauty cross-country. It's built for adrenaline, not convenience. But here's where it really flexes. The LS218 doesn't just beat other electrics, it's gunning for gas-powered legends. It's taken titles at Pikes Peak and even holds 3 land speed records at Bonneville. This isn't just a bike, it's a statement. A quiet one, sure, but still, a statement. Number 9, the Kawasaki Ninja ZX-14R. Sitting at the core of this monster is a 1441cc inline-4 engine, punching out a whopping 208 horsepower. That's more raw power than some compact cars on the market, and at 598 pounds, it's not exactly lightweight, but more like a heavyweight boxer that's still nimble enough to dance around the ring. Pair that power-to-weight ratio of 0.35 horsepower per pound with the sleek dynamics, and you've got a machine that doesn't just ride, it roars. But like every engine, the ZX-14R story comes with a bittersweet chapter. This bike has already been benched in European and Asian markets due to stricter emissions regulations. For the US market, its days are likely numbered too, unless Kawasaki pulls a page from Suzuki's playbooks and starts slapping bold new graphics on it every year. This could very well be its final form. And honestly, pouring out a Monster Energy drink for this big ninja feels about right. At $15,999, the ZX-14R doesn't just deliver speed, it delivers a legacy. Number 10, the Suzuki Hayabusa. First released in 1999, the Hayabusa immediately puts every other bike on notice. Named after the peregrine falcon, a bird that can dive at over 200 miles an hour, oh yeah, and it hunts blackbirds, this bike wasn't here to play nice. Its liquid-cooled 1340cc inline four-cylinder engine was a beast, pumping out 190 horsepower in its 2022 model year. That's enough juice to send this 582-pound wet weight machine screaming up to 194 miles an hour. Yeah, you heard that right, 194 miles an hour. Fast enough to make your grandma's casserole. Seems like it takes a week to heat up. But the Hayabusa isn't just about raw numbers. Sure, its power-to-weight ratio is 0.32 horsepower per pound. It's not exactly breaking records compared to the top-tier modern sports bikes, but the Busa carved out a niche by being approachable. It's a bike that you can grow into. Beginners, you're welcome here. Veterans, yeah, you're still going to grin every time you crack the throttle. Now, let's get real. The Hayabusa's design has always been polarizing. With its bulbous shape, it's the kind of look that either grows on you or makes you wonder if it's a time traveler from the 90s. Suzuki leaned into it, throwing in nods to its kanji logo and other little Easter eggs that made it clear. The bike knows it's iconic, and it's leaning into the legacy. And the sound. Oh man, the sound. That inline four sings a tune that's part opera, part Chainsaw Massacre. It's one of those things that'll make you turn down your favorite playlist just to hear it roar. So, would I drop $17,999 on a brand new Hayabusa straight from the dealership? Well, what's your favorite fastest street motorcycle? Let me know in the comments below.